Hello everyone and welcome to Autos and Gizmos. In this video, I'm going to show you how I installed this reverse camera to this 2005 Mercedes C-Class. And make sure to stick around all the way to the end of the video because I'm also going to give this project a DIYABILITY score. The camera itself is attached to the number plate light cover, so it's not going to be a full housing swap, which means there's a bit of wire management we need to work through. I'm going to skip the head unit removal process in this video. If you need to watch the instruction video for that, a link to that video is in the description box below. We're now indoors, and what I'm gonna do next is to prep the wire. So what I have here are just the basic tools, and if you intend to use JST connectors as shown in this video, you'll need a crimping tool like this, and of course the JST connectors themselves, because my objective is to make the connection look similar to this. So to get started, let's cut the zip tie to get more access to the wires. So now I know this is the brown wire that I need, so I might just need to loosen that up first, give me more room. So in my case, this brown wire will send power to the reverse camera when the car goes in reverse. So what I have is just an extra brown wire to match that brown wire. The idea here is that I've got one of these JST connectors, and what I intend to do is to create a jump cable so that I have two terminals coming out of a single wire on one end. So I'll cut that off somewhere in the middle. Then on the other end, I'll be able to connect it to power up two devices. Obviously, one goes into the head unit to tell the head unit that the car is in reverse, so it'll switch to the camera input, and another one to send a 12-volt power to the reverse camera itself. I'm not going to bore you with all the gory details how I rewire this connection, so I'm going to fast forward the video from here. But if you have any questions or comments, just leave them in the comment section down below and I'll get back to you. Okay, so one thing I need to mention is that when you're done with putting in this connector, probably best not to insert it onto this JST connector for now, because this is the video cable that needs to go through from the trunk to the front of the car. So we need this loose. We can't have it connected here for now. I suppose you can, but that means you'll have to start routing this wire from the front to the back. So in the end, it's all about preference, so just follow whatever's comfortable for you. To get started, let's open up the boot so we can remove the carpet trim from the boot lid. First, let's remove this plastic trim around the latch. There are two T20 Torx screws that you need to remove. Once you remove those two T20 Torx screws, this carpet trim can slide off. And then, using a plastic pry tool like this, go right ahead and remove these 10 clips that hold the boot liner. Next, we need to remove this emergency triangle holder. Start by twisting this lever counterclockwise, and using a pointed object like this, insert it into the hole, lift up the locking tab, then slide the whole piece to the left to release. And then we'll need to remove this clip that holds this plastic piece. There's one on either side. Just put them back together so you don't lose that piece. Now there are several straps that hold these plastic pieces together, and a few of them are easily accessible on the outside, but there are some straps that are located way inside this carpet trim. It's just right there. The other one, it's a bit more difficult to access. So what I am going to do is I'm gonna just unclip these carpet trim. It's a bit tricky, so I would need to unclip that part and sort of peel this away towards here so I can access the clips or the straps that hold these plastic pieces. We'll also need to do that anyway, because that's the area where we're gonna route the cable from the front to the back, so we need access to that area in this boot cavity anyway. So we'll go ahead and do that. I'll show you how it's done. First, we'll need to remove this boot floor liner. There are two buttons that you need to unclip on either side, and then you can just pull it straight out. Set that aside. Next, we'll need to unclip those two fasteners using this plastic pry tool. And then slide it out a bit to clear that tab. There's one on either side. And then just pull it straight out. Again, set that aside. Then we'll need to remove those two clips. There's one towards the end there, and there's another one here. So we're now ready to peel these away. Just carefully peel the trim away. Just be careful not to tear it. So that just gives us more access to remove this clip. So much easier. And then go right ahead and push these plastic piece away until this strap disengages. You start from the bottom straps or going up. And then once you have all the straps disengaged, you then just come around and peel this away. Make sure there are no straps that are caught, and then pull that away. And then go over to the other side and do the same process. So just slip it from underneath and then pull it down. Make sure to clear that clip. Once you have all the clips removed, we're now ready to remove this whole trim. So all we need to do is make sure we clear that plastic piece there, and then just slide it out, and the clips there just pulls right out. Next thing for us to do is to remove this number plate light. I'm gonna remove this driver side number plate light. It actually pulls out. We actually need to remove this plastic cover here. First thing you need to do is there's a screw that holds this whole thing in place. Without the trim cover here, you should be able to have access to that screw. Just remove that. Once that screw is removed, so we just need to carefully pry it out to release those clips. And then just slowly move across, and then there should be another clip. So you got 4 clips like that. Just be careful. Just be careful when removing these clips. As you can see here, these are no longer OEM clips. So just be careful when you remove them and don't break them. So set that aside. What it does allow us to do is to remove the whole assembly. So I've removed it already previously, but the lights, just this, is held in place by this clamp. So you just squeeze that in, and then it comes off. If you have the plastic panel here, you can't push this out because this one comes out this way. So you install it like this. Install it sort of like that, and then it clamps on that side. So when you remove it, clamps like that. Obviously there's a connector here, you just need to unplug it from the inside. Since you don't have all the trim pieces there, you should have access to all that. Okay, so we're back in the workshop again, and before we can install this reverse camera onto the number plate light housing, we need to do some bit of cable management. Now if you flip this camera around, you'll see that the wire is actually outside of the housing, and we need to figure out a way how to tuck it in. The housing itself sits flush in the body of the car, so the only way to successfully put this back on is if this wire is embedded inside the housing itself. I was actually contemplating on cutting this black wire probably about 5 inches from the camera, and then drill a hole inside the housing, thread the wire, and then reconnect it on the other side. But in the end, I chose the path to least resistance, or so I thought. So what I'm going to do is to melt this plastic housing just enough so that the wire itself will sit flush in the housing, and I'll be able to put this back into the boot of the car. So I'll get this soldering iron ready, and let's melt some plastic. Midway through this process, I had to switch to using a larger soldering iron tip because the one I was using before isn't big enough to accommodate the full width of the wire. So I ended up burning through the entire length of that case, so it's all the way up to there, because if you have a wire sticking out, here, you won't be able to get it past that really tight case, that tight slot in the boot. So it has to sit really flush from there, from the top all the way to the bottom, so it can slide into the slot. So yep, that's what I did. Took a while, doesn't really took that long, but you just need to spend a bit more time, but that's doable. It's not really difficult. And then of course slot those wire in, create a loop so that you have access to the bulb should you need to change it in the future, and then just lay it out like that. At least it's not too exposed. And then with this one, just cut that slot, cut a tab there so you can fold that in. It's not the most elegant solution, but this will do for now. Now that most of the boot liner cover is removed, what we need to do is figure out how to route the wire from this end down here and all the way down towards the cabin. Earlier in this video, I showed you the clips that hold this carpet trim. If you have removed them already at this point, you can just peel this trim away, and this will give you access to a cavity that connects the boot and the rear passenger compartment. It's covered by this foam insulation, and all you need to do is reach in to that area and just pull it out. It's a bit tight, but just pull it out, and that's the cavity that we'll use to route the video cable into the passenger compartment. Once you have the foam insulation removed, what I have is I've stuck a piece of ruler, because that's where the wire would come out. So if you can see here, that ruler is just right there. Okay, so the next step is to connect the rear end of the video connector to this ruler here. So just secure it in place. Make sure it's not going to snag, so just cut the tape off. Okay, so the next step is to just pry that seat a bit and push it in. Okay, I'll move to the rear of the car again, and the next step is to just move this out of the way. So just be careful not to tear it. Just grab onto that. Grab onto that piece, pull it out, and there you have it. Once it's through, just remove the tape. this. So this is the, it's important that you fish the rear end of the cable, because that's what's going to connect to the rear view camera. Once you have it in this area, just make sure to get enough slack so it will reach the camera. So I've got enough slack on the cable, so I'll be able to route it from here all the way to there. I'll tape it up. I've also got a fabric tape, so I'll just tape it up, or maybe just zip tie it along here. Maybe route it from there. Route the top. Probably route it together like that. So just showing you guys where the grounding point is. So initially I thought it's grounded, but I checked it. It doesn't have a connection to ground. It's not even conductive, but there is like grounding points there. So that's where I'm gonna tap the ground for the camera. That's why I had to extend that wire so it reaches that area, and using this connector, hopefully I'll be able to tap onto the ground. Okay, so we're inside the boot, deep inside the crevice. That's the ground point that I'm gonna tap into, and I've just measured. It's at T10. Okay, so loosen it up. So just if you're doing it for the first time, so make sure just take precautions. You don't want to get electrocuted or something coming in. Sorry, you probably can't see what I'm doing, but I'm just trying to tap into the wire there. That should be it. And then I'm just going to tighten that bolt. There it is. So that's the blue wire that we've connected. It's connected to the camera. It's the grounding point of the camera. So I'm just gonna pull that in some more, because I've so what I'll do is I'll zip tie it here so it doesn't move. So just to secure that, I'll be pulling the video cable, and I don't want to accidentally pull that grounding point, so this is sort of helps secure it. Make sure you cut the right, and that's it. So now let's insert the wire through, and clip it in. Now that's probably temporary, because obviously the panel that covers this thing needs to go in, and I don't think it can fit here. So good thing we have this loop around the back, so I need to unscrew that. I need to maybe just this. I need to unscrew this to slide in the panel. Hopefully that works, and then pop it in, and then screw it on. But that will be the last step. because we need to fix up the insides. So now we can reattach the connector that powers up the number plate light. Just reach in there and feel your way through. Then after that, we can attach this power and video connector that feeds into the reverse camera. This step here is not necessary for the proper operation of the reverse camera, but as good practice in cable management, you just make sure that the wires are properly secured so it doesn't rattle or it doesn't get accidentally disconnected. So what I'm doing here is I'm just using the areas where the wires have a mounting point, so and then I'm just using cable ties to secure this reverse camera onto the same mounting point. So now what we need to do next is just tuck these wires in. So this is easy, this is the easy bit. Just tuck it all in there. I mean, you can later on you can even put it behind this, but for now I'll just tuck it in behind the phone. So again, just what I intend to do here is not remove any of these plastic panels, so I'm just gonna route it at the back. Try to insert that onto the plastic panel. Next, you want to try and hide the wire underneath this plastic trim as best as you can. I chose not to remove the plastic trim by the door sill because I don't think it's necessary. Tucking it in underneath is sufficient to hide it. What I do find very effective is to use two sets of plastic pry tools, one to pry and hold the plastic trim and another one to push the wire in. Be careful not to damage the wire as you push it in. So that's the rear done. Now when you reach this junction, essentially you need to lift both and then just tuck in that wire. So once it's in, just keep on tucking it in. And hold that so we'll move on to the front. Now before you begin tucking the wires in the front passenger area, make sure to push your chair all the way down and then all the way back. Doing this will give you as much working room as possible since it's quite a bit tight here, especially the area next to the seat controls. It will still be tight down there, but you just need to feel your way around to tuck the wires in as much as possible. You can start tucking the front part of the wire, then hopefully the rear portion will follow suit. By the way, when prying the plastic trim with your fingers, make sure you're wearing protective gloves because the edges of these plastic trims are quite sharp. Okay, so I managed to tuck that in just barely. Okay, so at this point, this is the junction where I'm not gonna go under here. I'm gonna go over. So just lift it up a bit. Now once you get to this point, we'll need to peel away this weather shield so we can tuck the wire in underneath. Now I find it easier if we start peeling away the weather shield from the top. So it's hard to peel away this part. Put your fingers underneath and just pull it away. It's actually just held by just friction. There's no clip mechanism or anything. So there you go. All the way you don't. I think you don't. That's as far as it can go. So that's fine. So so there's a connection point there. Not sure if you can see it. So I'll just go ahead and tuck this wire just beneath that rubber. I might just leave it sitting on top there, but so there's a bit. Yeah, no, that's too tight. So I'll leave that sitting there, but the rest can go in. So once it's there, at this point there is a clamp I think I could just sit that on top there, but the rest, yeah, I'll just make it sit like that. I'm gonna start from the bottom and work my way up, making sure that it's nice and tight, there's no slack. The wire joins in at that point, and I'm gonna route it underneath this glove box compartment. So it's all underneath, and I've got the GPS running down as well. They meet at this point, and they're both going underneath the glove box. So just close it up, just a matter of pushing it in. And as you push in, make sure you push down as well, so push this direction and in like that. So that's where the clamp was. So I mean, there's this really slight bulge, but it's really not noticeable. Okay, so I want to hide these two wires under this plastic panel here. So I'm just gonna remove, I think there's a T20 Torx there. There's another one there. So I'll remove this panel and then find a way to hide, at least tuck it in so it's not on the way, it's not visible. And then from there, there's a crevice here, and that's where I'm gonna route the wire through to the center cavity. I'll just do that. Okay, it did come off. I'll probably just I'm not gonna mess with that. I'm just gonna leave it like that, and I'm gonna put the wire just underneath there. There's a lot of dust. I don't want to be messing with this. But at this point, I'll leave it for now. Hopefully I can push it back. Yep, cool. That's good. Okay, but I still need it open. Okay, cool. Now, the trick of it is I need to fish the wire through. There is a line here, is that when I shone a light in there, I can see my finger just right there. I'm not sure whether you can see that. You can see the finger right there, and so it's just right here, and I'm going to fish the wire. I can see it coming. I can see my finger. There it is. Now I just need to grab it. Move the wire away. Should be able to grab it. There it is. That's the wire there. So that's the wire. And then that's the other end. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'll tie these two cables here, tape it up, and pull it in, and then it ends up in the cavity. Okay, so I've taped it up, and the wire is here dangling, so I'm gonna pull it in. A little bit of encouragement. Looks like it's a bit. Oh, awesome. There it is. I've got. That's one of the most difficult part of this process. Here it is. I think we're all ready to close up. So we're here. I'm just tidying up the cable, make sure there's nothing is exposed before I close this off. Clicked. Where that click is from. Okay, and then I'm gonna screw it on. So before we start closing it off, just need to make sure that all the connections are good and that everything is working. So I'm just gonna hook that up. So that's the camera from the rear. I'm gonna connect it. Fire up the car. Now wait for the system to start up. Okay, so now it has started up. Make sure you don't scratch any of the leather parts there. The brown wire is what we need to get power for this. Okay, just plug it in there. And then we'll see if we can put this in reverse without starting the car. No, I can't. I have to start the car. Put that in reverse. Okay, so I just want to put the car in reverse. It wouldn't display video yet because I haven't connected power. Hopefully this will work. As soon as I turn on the car, it should say no signal. Oh, say no signal. And then if I connect this, it should display. Awesome. Yep. I think that works. Excellent. It's all working. Okay, we can now close this all up because the reverse camera is all working. I'm happy with that. The next thing we need to do is to reattach the plastic cover and screw it in. But before we can do all this, we need to remove the reverse camera first so that the plastic panel can slide in underneath. So now I'm slide in the camera like that. Make sure it's outside. There it is. So after inserting the reverse camera through the slot, align the clips on this plastic trim. There are 4 clips on top and 4 at the bottom. Once you're sure all 8 clips are lined up, snap them back into place. After that, we can now reattach the reverse camera back into its place. Notice there's a slack in the reverse camera wire. This is on purpose. This is so that we can remove the cover and have access to the light if needed. Then let's go right ahead and screw this plastic cover in place to make sure it doesn't fall off while we're driving. So one final check that all clips are fully seated. And then there's a small screw that you need to insert from the outside, and then there's a nut that you attach on the inside using an 8mm socket. Then use a thin insulation foam to wrap around these connectors to prevent any rattling noise in this area. Next, you have to secure it with zip ties on either end so it won't come off, and then cut off the excess zip ties. So now we are ready to reattach the carpet trim for the boot lid. First, align the two flaps at the bottom of the trim onto the slot on the boot lid so it holds the whole carpet trim in place. Next, insert the sides first, then slide it up. Then press the bottom part of the trim so you can slip it under the plastic panel. Next, we need to reattach these two plastic covers for the hinges on the boot lid. Then to put this back, simply slide that up. Make sure this tab is in between the carpet trim and the plastic trim. Then make sure all these plastic straps are in the open position, and then just carefully slide it in. Once it's in place, reattach this wire. There's actually a groove on the side, so just make sure it sits in that groove. Nice and flush. And then once everything is in place, just push these straps in one by one from the top going down. Then reach in, attach the clips, make sure they're nice and secure, and then make sure all these this carpet trim lines up on the tab. Then repeat the same procedure for the other side. Next, we need to reattach this plastic panel in the far end of the boot area. Make sure the carpet trim on the side panels are in its proper position. Then line it up on the boot floor. The tabs on either side of the plastic trim goes under. Then secure the plastic cover using these locking clips. There's one for each side. Make sure the button in the middle is in the raised position. Line it up, push the base until you hear it click, then push the button down to lock it in place. Then do the same procedure for the clip on the other side of the plastic cover. So once we're done attaching the plastic cover on the hinge arm, we can now refasten this carpet trim using these clips. So just position the holes and attach this clip. You can use a plastic pry tool to push the middle part, and then once it's all secure, push the button in. And don't forget to fasten the far end of the carpet trim using the same clip. Then let's start reattaching all the clips that secure this carpet trim on the boot lid cover. Then secure this grab handle using the T20 torque screws. And finally, replace the boot floor liner. Now all the work we need to do in the rear of the car is all done, so we're now ready to move up front and close it all off. Here I'm just making sure that all the accessory connectors are securely fastened. Then grab the video output connector from the reverse camera and plug it in. Ta-da! That's what this video is all about, that yellow connector. Now you might recall this was our target connection diagram, and there are two things we still need to do to achieve this. First, we need to connect the red wire with a JST terminal into one end. Second, we need to connect this JST connector. This is the brown cable, brown wire, and that's the cable that we need to plug it in. Locking tab goes up through the window and then it's locked. And then all we need to do is find that brown cable and connect it. There it is. We have connectivity. Hopefully that's all there is to it. Hopefully that will work. Okay, so I'll probably reopen this again and do proper cable management. Either wrapping it all up in mesh, fabric mesh, a mesh hose or something like that. Mesh hose. But yep, we'll need to find a way to do that cable, manage that cable better. But let's see if we have connectivity now. If I have a key. There it is. And finally, let's close this all up. I'm just going to speed through this process because this has been a long video. So if you need the detailed video instruction how this is done, make sure to check out my Android head unit installation guide. The link to that video will either be in the pop-out banner or in the description section down below. So I'm now outside to test the clarity of the reverse camera. It's a very clear day today, and this is what's shown on the screen. It's very clear. I also tried this last night, and the video output was also acceptable. And now I'm going to give this project a DIYABILITY score. This is the part where I rate the work I've done by judging it across 5 categories. Each category gets a score from 1 to 10, and so the maximum score any of my DIY project can get is 50. Starting with affordability, when I got this Mercedes several months ago, back in early 2021, I wanted to install a reverse camera very quickly, and because of this, I bought a reverse camera unit from a local reseller, so there's a shorter delivery time frame. I actually got the unit within 2 weeks when I checked the tracking history, but this comes at a cost. The price difference of a reverse camera with the same spec was almost triple compared to ones being sold by an overseas reseller. Would I have done the same thing now? I don't think so. In the end, it probably saved me about 3 to 4 weeks that time, but if I had to do this again, I'd probably just wait that 4 weeks. So back to the score. I initially gave this project a score of 1 out of 10 in this category because this camera that I bought is the most expensive I've seen for this car. But I feel that that score is not a true reflection of the end goal. It's probably a mistake on my part, which I could have avoided. So rather than scoring this project on this category because of a lapse in judgment in my part, I'll score it based on what it could have been. So from an affordability point of view, this project gets a 10 out of 10. Moving on to the quality category, the output video resolution of this reverse camera is pretty decent at 1280 by 720. It almost matches the screen resolution of the head unit, which is at 1280 by 600. So any camera with a higher output resolution will just be a waste. The camera also performs well both in bright and low light conditions. Now on to the bad stuff. First, the length of the ground wire was too short. It's actually long enough to tap into existing ground wire nearby, but knowing how the electronics in this car is very sensitive to current fluctuations, I thought it's probably best to find a proper ground point. Unfortunately, The ground point was too far away, so I had to extend the length of the ground wire that comes with the reverse camera. It's not a big deal, but it's another thing you need to worry about. The second bad thing is about wire management. The bad thing about cameras integrated onto the number plate like cover is that you're left to figure out yourself how to manage the wire. Now, I must admit, if you've seen that in that video, my approach was not the best, but that just proves there's some design issue with this kind of camera which can't be ignored. So I'm giving this project a 5 out of 10 for quality. Next, satisfaction. I'm very satisfied with the output of this project. I mean, this is a 16-year-old car, but it has all the major infotainment features found in modern cars, which are GPS navigation, CarPlay, and reverse camera. The only bad thing about this project is knowing that part of the reverse light housing is now melted, but no one will ever know. So this project gets a satisfaction score of 8 out of 10. Moving on to fit and finish. Even though there are some serious melted plastic behind this cover, you actually can't tell it from the outside, so I'm pretty happy the way it looks. However, since the camera is directly under the light bulb, you'll notice the illumination on the right hand side of the number plate is a bit dim. So I'm giving this project an 8 out of 10 in this category. And finally, fun factor. I had fun doing this project. It took me several hours within a day to complete this work. The most time-consuming part was melting the plastic housing on the number plate light. I like the fact that the electrical connections in this installation is completely independent of any factory connections. I had to reshoot some parts of this video for better instructions, so it wasn't fun having to reenact the scene. So overall, this project gets a fun factor score of 8 out of 10. And that gives this DIY project a raw score of 39 out of 50, which puts it in comfortable 5th place above my E53 head unit installation project. And that's everything I have for you in this video. Thanks for watching. If you find this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and finally consider subscribing to this channel and hit that notification icon so you don't miss any of my updates. Until next time.